All right, today we're going to jump into the $1,000,000 question. Why do pastors try to run the church? I've heard this for years. The pastors are dictators. Pastors want to run everything. Pastors got to be in control of everything that goes on at the church. And well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own personal story because I used to recall myself jokingly the benevolent dictator. So stick around. We're going to jump into this. We're going to unbox how this happens and talk about how we can, start working our way through it. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Davis. You are watching Unboxed. Stick around. I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and relationship coach. And welcome to Unboxed, a frank and straightforward conversation about relationships. We're going to talk about family, church, workplace, and all other types of relationships. Join me for the next few moments as we unbox the power and potential of relationships and help you to live your best life. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Unboxed. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Robert Davis. Before we get started, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. And check out our website so you can learn about the different things that we do to help pastors, to help leaders, to help executives to be more effective at leading their organizations. Okay, so why do pastors try to run the church? Why do they got to have their hands in everything and want to make sure everything just goes just right, whether it's the worship service, the budget, the building project? They got their hands everywhere. And we've talked before about how we show up. And oftentimes for pastors and leaders, there's a way that we show up with our church, and then there's a way that we show up at home. It's not just pastors, it's all high functioning executives that it's a common refrain. They show up, one way, one place, and another place, another way, another place. And I want you to start thinking about something with me. And this is what I do when I do my leadership coaching. And that is talking about responsibility. Because when you look at someone who is a dictator, and I used to refer to myself as a benevolent dictator, a very high functioning leader, as I told you before, successful in every church that I've ever pastored. Very proud of my track record. I'll put it up to next to anyone's. There's never been a church that I've ever pastored that regressed. Every church I've ever pastored progressed. And I'm not just saying that boastfully, but I'm saying it honestly. But there were a lot of sacrifices that I made to do that, and a lot of things that I did that weren't my responsibility. So I want to talk about the word responsibility, and we have to be responsible, as we've learned before, about the way that we show up at church or in our organization, and the way that we show up at home among our family members. We have to take responsibility. And one of the things as we talk about responsibility that I've noticed, especially with myself and with leaders that I work with, is that pastors have a tendency to be extremely other focused. And other focus means our minds are constantly thinking about other people, what other people think, what other people do, about other people, more than we think about showing up. And we have this wonderful cliche, we're not humans doing, we're human being, and it's about being, blah, 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 blah. But to be honest with you, you actually, unless it just comes natural for you, and it really doesn't come natural for a lot of people. Trust me, I'm telling you from personal experience, you really do need someone to help guide you through the process of becoming more of a self and becoming more of a being and being more focused on who you are. So we're going to talk about how that looks. Give me just a couple of minutes. And this is how it looks. One of the ways that we become very responsible for not being a dictator is becoming clear. And you'll hear me use this term clear, becoming clear about our responsibilities, becoming clear about what is it that I am responsible for within this organization. So you take, for instance, my leadership when I was pastoring. I took responsibility for the praise team and the worship service and evangelism and the building project and the church maintenance and the church grooming. And I took responsibility for the counseling and the, administrating funerals and weddings. And I took responsibility for mitigating and mediating between interpersonal conflict. I took responsibility for it, and I put it all on my shoulder. And so what ends up happening when you are not clear about what your responsibility is and confident, because a lot of leaders And the reason that they step up and lead so wonderfully is because rather than leading because that's their responsibility, they're leading because of self-esteem issues. And one of the things that I really had to come to terms with in my own life, and that I encourage everyone to come to terms with, is what are your self-esteem issues? What are the things that you are wrestling with that are showing up in your leadership with your organization? Too often we focus, when we're at church, we're focused on what others think about us. So it's important that we're successful. It's important that our bishops and that our, the higher organization, it's important that our colleagues and friends, view us as being successful and well accomplished. I'll never forget, when I first started pastoring, I had several pastors who came to me and they said, "Hey, listen, young man, in the Seventh-day Adventist denomination, we move pastors around." So they say, "Hey, listen, young man, make sure that whatever church you go to, you leave your mark. You got to leave a legacy wherever you go. So, do a renovation project. Make sure that you build something. Make sure that you redo the foyer or, build a new building or start a school or do something. You got to do something so that you leave your permanent mark." And that really is the advice of someone who really has poor self-esteem. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's the advice of someone who has self-esteem issues, and that is who works and does what they need to, or what they do rather, looking for the affirmation of others. So often, and that's other focus, because rather than looking inward to say, okay, what am I responsible for? What is it that I should be doing? And what are the things that I'm currently doing that I shouldn't be doing? In other words, what are too much? I'm taking on too much. And this is where burnout comes from. I'm taking on too much and I'm doing for others. Because I tell you what happens, leaders, whether it's a nonprofit organization, whether it is a corporation, or whether it is a church, if you step up and say, "I'm going to take over the lead and do everything," guess what? People will let you do everything. It's a thing called over-functioning, under-functioning reciprocity. You want to do everything? Hey, be my guest. Go ahead and do it. That's less for me. And then it starts this cycle of frustration that often a lot of leaders find themselves in. So one of the things that I truly encourage people to do is to become clear about what you're responsible for. And once you do that, it really helps you to turn out the noise of trying to figure out, how do I get the affirmation? One of the things you see a lot of pastors do especially is brag, and over and exaggerate. I remember I would talk to guys and they talk about all the great things that are going, and then I come to preach at their church, and it's spotted. You could stand on the pulpit with a buckshot gun, shoot, and never hit anybody because the place is scattered. And then they come and tell you, "Oh, I don't know what happened today. This, that, and the other going on, and the folk here, this, that." No, the reality of the matter is you were exaggerating the numbers to begin with, because for whatever reason you thought that you needed to impress me. Truth of the matter is, my friends, we need to become clear about what our responsibility is, and to have a certain amount of confidence in ourselves, and to really become aware of our self-esteem issues. And that's one of the things that we do when, one of the things that I do in particular, and UnBoxed does, is help individuals to kind of work through that and to understand that, so that when you show up in your workplace, you should show up as an authentic leader. I've been talking about this, and I'll share one more time. We do have a pastor support group where we can kind of unpack some of these things. I'm going to put that up there on the slide for you. The pastor support group, you can go to our website. That's it right there, unboxed.org, pastor/pastor support. Go ahead and check that out. Let's not do the most. Let's do what we're responsible for without doing the most. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can become better pastors, better leaders. But let's leave it right there for today. So glad you chose to join us. Let's continue to unpack and to unbox the power and the potential of all healthy relationships. Take care.
Seasoned with Grace, UnBoxed also provides healthy relationship training and leadership development for businesses, churches, and community organizations. For a free consultation to discuss your team's needs, please contact us at our website at swg-unboxed.org. That's swg-unboxed.org.